There, my name is Annika and I'm the founder here at Mummy Made This, a company I created to inspire creative play in children, but also to build a supportive community for like-minded parents. So today I want to talk about the idea of connection before correction. So those of you that are keen advocates of the respectful parenting approach, they will know all about this. But for those of you who haven't heard about it, the idea is basically that you do your very best to connect with your child before you chastise them, before you discipline, before you do anything else, before you say no even. That you get far better results actually if you do your best to connect with them and to work together with them to get to the end result. I guess for many though, there's still that big question around, well, how does that actually work in practice? Is that really feasible? And when the things are tough, right? How do we still try and do that as parents? So today I wanted to give you a couple of examples of what this looks like in my family and see whether some of those resonate with you. So let me just have a look. So the first one is all about sweets. And my children have a very sweet tooth, and they absolutely love things like gummy bears or pinballs or nerds or any sweets really. And when they've been shopping with me, these are obviously all readily available, right? So the thing I might say at the beginning of our shop before we walk into the store is like you get to pick one thing each or one thing combined, whatever it is that day, for you to have that choice and to have that autonomy, right, to choose the sweet within reason that they want. But it's just the one. And so they then especially my little one will go around the store and he'll see the sweet he wants and then put it in the basket. But then at the checkout he might see another thing, and like during the shop he might see another thing. So then suddenly it's not just one thing. It's, oh, but mummy, can I just this as a treat? Can I have another one, please? I can have it. And rather than saying no straight away, especially if they try and like sneak stuff into the basket, my oldest one sometimes does that. I will try and connect with them to get that smile off them, that eye contact, and say something like, oh, what's that? What are you doing sneaking that into the basket? We agreed there's only one thing today for each of you to choose, and you've already chosen yours. If you've changed your mind, that's fine. You can choose whichever one you want. But we've agreed just the one, so you choose. Good try though. And that sort of softens it. And not only the eye contact is really important, right? And the getting down on their level, but that softening at the end certainly works for my older children, all of them. But when I then say good try though, seems to put us on the same side, seems to get them to realize, oh, she acknowledges that, yeah, I probably shouldn't have snuck that in and that was wrong, and fair enough, she's not daft. Like, yeah, I won't, that's not acceptable. That's me overstepping the boundary. But at the same time, they're not in trouble necessarily. They're not, I can understand their point of view, right? Lots of sweets are yummy and it's exciting and tempting to put more in the basket than you've agreed. We all do it, right? So it's trying to work with them through that temptation rather than just being really like, no, what are you doing? I told you no. Yeah, and it has a very different heartwarming outcome, which is you feel connected rather than at each other's throats. The other thing that's worked really well for me, and that might help parents with younger children, is around Christmas time, say, or around his birthday time, when we go shopping and he sees all these toys, and what really helps him, even though I say, no, we're not buying any toys today, or if we go and buy a toy for a friend for a birthday party that they've been invited to, and I will be really clear and say, we're not buying any toys for you today. It's all about buying Tom or whatever, the toy, and you can help me pick, but we're not buying anything for you. And he will say, oh, but mummy, I really want this. I don't want to buy anything for Tom. I want to buy something for me. I really like it. And again, I try really hard not to get annoyed with them around that, but to acknowledge, oh, I know it's hard picking presents for others, isn't it? You see so many exciting things that you'd like yourself. I totally agree. And then the thing that really helps my little one is that we take pictures of the things that he would really like. And that seems to help him to let go of that desire to want to buy it and, instant gratification thing of wanting to buy that thing right now. We take a picture, often I make sure the price is on there as well, so that I am reminded of the things that he liked and he's reminded of the things that he liked. And then we can come back to the store at another time, or 9 times out of 10, we never go back and we never buy it. But that doesn't seem to matter. That's not the point for him. The point for him is that he's got an image of it on the phone and he knows if he ever did want to go back to it, we could. As I say, often that's not what he needs, and not he doesn't really talk about it again, but that immediate need in the moment is met. And it's much better than saying, nope, like, don't be so selfish. We're not picking something for you, because it's hard, right? And they need to learn that. A second example that that really works in terms of connection before connection correction. So the first two examples were all about saying no in the moment, right, when kids want something, and to be able to connect with them and help them through that. My second example is more about spending time with the child. So connection can take on many forms, right? And the other week, my husband and I, we'd noticed that one of our children, who he felt like he was pulling away a bit. He was always going off to his room. He was having a go at his siblings. He always seemed to feel hard done by. He didn't really want to talk about anything. And I get some of this is just, growing up, and you don't always want to talk to your parents about stuff, and that's fine, and that's, but and we said things like, well, when you want to talk, we're here to listen to you. We're here for you, whatever. But he never did come and talk about anything, and it like life was really busy. We were constantly rushing from here, there, and everywhere, and actually we hadn't spent much time just with him one-on-one, or had that space for him to open up and talk about stuff that he wanted to. Even though we were offering time, that sometimes didn't work for him, so that natural connection just wasn't happening. So I made a point of engineering that natural connection, if you like. And what I said to him one evening after dinner was, at bedtime, I said, oh, do you know what? I really love going swimming for a couple of lengths, and it really does me a lot of good. And, if you want to come with me, why don't we go swimming together? He said, oh, no, swimming's not really my thing, but I love football. And it was raining, so now we can't really go play football. How about badminton? So he loved the idea of going to play some badminton together. So the next morning I booked a court really early in the morning before school. And I woke him up, and he was up and out of bed, and we got in the car before everybody else had woken up, drove down to the local gym place, and just played some badminton together, just half an hour, just messing about, giggling, having some fun. And when we were really thirsty, went down to the little vending machine to get ourselves a Lucasade, and suddenly he was full of life, bubbling, talking about everything, like fun stuff that had happened to him during the week, stuff that he'd struggled with, and it just seemed to all pour out of him. And it was just magic what can happen if you make the time to just spend that time with your child. And I know that applies for spending that time with your partner too, right? And spending that time for yourself every now and again as well. But yeah, it's just a reminder, I guess, that it doesn't always work for me, right? I'm busy, and I don't always get it right. But when I do, and we manage to get some time together and just connect, it really, really is fabulous. And that happening last week or the week before just reminded me of how powerful that connection is, and to keep just doing that throughout their childhood, because it's so important to keep that connection go. Because when the going is good, right, the connection is there and it's easy to maintain. But particularly when the going is tough, it's so important to have that connection and do your best to maintain it, as I guess we know. And then the third example I want to share is another idea for you to try. This is all about when my kids are really angry or upset about something, rather than jumping in to stop that feeling, I try really hard to separate the feeling from the behavior. So, it might be, I can see that you're really angry. I hear you. This is really frustrating for you. Tell me what's going on for you. And then listening to what they have to say. This one is probably harder for me at times, especially when they're really, really mad and they show some behaviors that I don't like, I don't know, being mean to their siblings. And it's really important for me to separate that, right? To say, I love you, and no matter what you feel, I'm still going to love you. And I can't let you hit your sibling or whatever. But again, to find that way to connect with that child and say, oh, hang on a minute, like, let's just take a deep breath, take a step away from the situation. What's going on for you? Talk to me. And try and diffuse some of those feelings that way, and allow them to all pour out of them without them translating into negative behavior necessarily. And I guess that works for adults too, right? When I'm having a bad day, if my husband were to turn around to me and say, "Oh, just like be quiet and like don't slam the door," or "What are you doing? You're being ridiculous," or whatever, that would really get my back up. Whereas if he's able to say, which he normally is, like, "Oh, wow, you're in a grump today. What's going on for you? Tell me about it. You've had a bad day. What's going on?" Right? And I guess it's only the same for kids. Yeah, those are the three things I have tried in my family recently and that have worked really well for us. I'd love to hear your thoughts as well. How do you deal with connecting with your children? What ideas do you have? What things do your kids love doing with you? And equally, how do you deal with big feelings and connecting with them no matter what, when they're pulling away, when they're angry, when they're sad? How do you support your children through that? I'd love to know. That's all for me today, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week.